Hello, everybody. Welcome back. And I guess I should be saying that to myself as well. Welcome back, myself and all of you, to episode 60 of The Owner's Box After Dark. I'm your host, Mark Farinella. And I know I haven't been around for a while. That happens a lot. I think my last episode of this video podcast was sometime around about a week or so after the presidential election, so I ranted, and then I got really busy with the end of the high school football season and a full high school basketball and hockey season that as you know, I'm a part-time broadcaster for local cable TV systems, and I had a lot of fun. We didn't get a champion out of the lot this year. Unfortunately, we got one team that made it to a state semifinal, but didn't get any farther than that. But still, it was a lot of fun. I think in the weeks to come, I will probably be able to put together some highlights and a couple of tidbits and talk about that a little bit and kind of, get everybody back up to speed with what I've been doing. But in the meantime, let's see. I turned 71 years old. That was in January. Whoopee. I also got sick. Fortunately, at the end of the basketball season, the state semifinal, I think, was on a Tuesday night. It was the Foxborough girls, and they lost to Norwell, and that game was at Taunton High School. And then the next day, I can't remember exactly the day it was on, but the next day, I started feeling a kind of a tickling in my throat. Well, wouldn't you know it, that turned into a full-fledged bronchial infection. Not COVID, not pneumonia, as far as I could tell, or as far as anybody could tell. But that was right around St. Patrick's Day, and it laid me up until just recently. In fact, I'm still coughing a little bit and still got a little congestion in my lungs, but I'm pretty much better off. But I am 35 pounds lighter than I was in January. Now, some of that is Ozempic, the medication that I take, which helps me with my diabetes. And of course, as you all know, if you watch television, you see all the commercials, you know that Ozempic helps very much with people who like to lose weight. In fact, a lot of people take it even though they're not diabetic. And I've groused about that here on the podcast in the past. But I think that the whole idea with that is that I'm not going to cast any aspersions right now, but I mean, I think obviously I do this for a specific reason. I take this stuff because I need it, and it has had a great side effect. But I also think that part of what's happened to me in the last couple of months is that I really did not eat much at all. I just wasn't feeling up to it. I could breathe well enough. It's not like I was laid up. I had tanks or anything, pumping air into me or anything. That was fine. I was just here at home, but I didn't want to eat. I didn't want to do much of anything. So, I slept a lot and I lost a lot of weight. And now I got to punch holes in all my belts that I bought about a year ago because I thought that I was plateauing a little bit. Well, it turns out I'm not, which is good. I'm lighter now, but the shirt still fit the same. I had big shoulders. The pants are loose, and I had the occasion I had to put my suit on, but the last suit I bought a couple of years ago, and as I was putting it on, I realized that I was trying to buckle the belt, I was trying to thread the belt through the hoops and all that, and my pants kept falling down because they wouldn't stay up. So good side, that's a good side benefit to all this, I guess. Hopefully, I'll keep the weight off and be a little healthier as I age right before your very eyes. Okay, something special today. We're not going to go deeply into a lot of things that maybe I wanted to go through, but I will in the future. We have some guests lined up. We also will talk a little bit more about the Patriots Hall of Fame selection. We'll try to get to that one before the vote ends in May. Of course, today is April 13th. It is a Sunday, April 13th, here in the year of 2025 of our Lord, which means we've been doing this for 6 calendar years now, although we've had some pretty big gaps in it. And we will talk in the future with a couple of guys in the sports media that I've enjoyed knowing and would like to get talked about some of their accomplishments coming up, and a few things that'll come up. But right now, as I'm kicking this back into gear, I wanted to do something special for a friend, and I'm going to tell you about it right now. Over the 5+ years that I've been doing these podcasts, I've had the occasion to welcome a broad spectrum of individuals to join me as guests for these podcasts. Some have been past and present coworkers, some have been my friends in the sports media, and others, some of my closest friends in life. And yet others have been, say, like local coaches or athletes of the teams that are of interest to the audience here in the southeastern Massachusetts area. And, I've enjoyed doing it. And I think people have responded nicely to it. I'm glad to that, and I'm glad to keep going back to it. But recently, I've had the opportunity to reach out to some people that I believe will make some great guests in the future. And I was racking my brain going through a list of people that I'd like to have on the podcast once I get my feet up beneath me again on this. And unfortunately, I found out that one of them wouldn't be able to join me. A recent story in the Boston Globe reminded me of a very good friend I have in the sports media, or formerly in the sports media, whom I've interviewed before for another multimedia platform that I operated during my employment at the Sun Chronicle in Attleboro, Massachusetts. This woman was someone who had covered Boston sports, all of the Boston professional teams during her long career at WBZ-TV, Channel 4 in Boston, and someone with whom I developed an enduring friendship over that time, over 40 years. She'd have been a perfect guest for this podcast, always pleasant, always talkable, always someone with some great insights, and still, keeps a good eye on what was going on in her retirement. But because of circumstances beyond her control, she can't do it. Her name is Alice Cook. She was a pair skater in the 1976 Winter Olympics in Innsbruck, Austria. And when she was hired by Channel 4 not long after her graduation from Boston College in the early 1980s, she became the first woman to hold a full-time sports reporting position at any of the Boston television stations. She has been retired for several years now, but we've been able to maintain some level of contact through social media. But when I read the story in the Globe on April 3rd, written by veteran reporter Kevin Paul DuPont, I realized with great sadness that the reasons why I had not seen much of Alice on social media lately. In 2023, Alice was diagnosed with ALS, popularly known as Lou Gehrig's disease. It's a neurological ailment that has no known cure. It's gradually but inevitably geared to just rob you of your muscular control, your physical control over practically every part of your body. Alice is in the earliest stages of what they call bulbar onset ALS. That affects the region of her brain that controls her facial muscles. She has trouble swallowing, and she has lost the ability to speak. But, fortunately, she still has relatively good control of her mobility, and she has a loving family to help her through all this. Right now, believe it or not, she is preparing to run the Boston Marathon for the third time in her life, and second since her diagnosis. For those that know Alice, who's now 69 years old, it comes as no surprise that she would display this level of courage, resolve, and optimism facing this ultimate challenge. She's always had a smile on her face and a steely will behind it. She desperately needed that back in the 1980s when she entered the close-knit and male-dominated Boston sports media corps. I met her for the first time back when the Patriots used to have their summer training camp at what was then Bryant College in Smithfield, Rhode Island. And I found her to be a very pleasant individual and a kindred spirit in a lot of ways. We'd often make the long walk to the practice fields together, or just find a shady spot to sit and chat during the breaks between double sessions, which they hardly have those anymore. And those chats would often be the highlights of the many, many days spent at Bryant during those really long 6-week training camps of the past. Now, by the way, at this point, I'd probably be showing you some pictures, but since what you're going to see a little bit later has plenty of pictures in them, I figure we'll save them and you'll see them later. Alice was part of what many thought was the best TV sports team in Boston for more than 25 years. And that's why, back in 2009, when I started doing a frequent podcast for the Sun Chronicle about my coverage of the Patriots, I wanted her to be one of my guests. She graciously agreed, so we recorded an interview for a 2-part episode of what I called Mark Farinella's audio blog. That was released to the public during the Patriots bye week in the 2009 season. And as I go through my notes here, and I think the episodes debuted on October 28th and 29th. Eyesight's not what it used to be. I should lift these up to see my notes. I found these episodes in my vast archives here recently, and I'll present you those 2 episodes momentarily. They will appear as a mixture of an audio interview and still pictures to accompany the sound, as I had not yet developed the ability to do a podcast like this back then. And when really this was in its infancy, and the Sun Chronicle didn't have the hosting capability for me to put a massive video production up on the site, even if I could have done it. But I thought I did a pretty good job of putting something together to go along with Alice and me speaking. And I'll be honest, knowing what I know now, it was really good to hear her voice one more time. But before I start that, I'm very happy to report that people can still hear Alice's voice. Even though she's lost the physical ability to speak, technology has restored her voice in another manner. As Kevin wrote in that Globe article, Alice is able to type words into an iPad, and recently developed software can translate her typing into speech, and that emanates from a Bluetooth speaker, a little speaker that goes on the iPad. And thanks to her former colleagues at WBZ, they dug up recordings of some of her past interviews, so the people who were engineering this whole software thing were able to use those to tell the software to mimic her actual voice. I thoroughly encourage you to read the article in the Globe. You'll see what it looks like up on the screen. It's also accompanied by a snippet of video in which you can hear Alice speaking in her natural voice, or at least what it sounds like in a natural voice, thanks to this amazing technology. Now compare that with what you'll hear in my interview with Alice from 16 years ago, and I'm sure you're going to agree it's absolutely remarkable what they've done. And with that, I present to you the first part of a brief but very wide-ranging interview I had with my fellow reporter and longtime friend, Alice Cook.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another Patriots audio blog. I'm Mark Farinella, the assistant sports editor of the Sun Chronicle, and no, I'm not at Gillette Stadium today. This is the Patriots bye week, and I'm on vacation, but I do have a very special guest for you today, and we'll get to that in just a minute. First, let's have a quick recap of last week's game. The Patriots put on a good show for nearly 85,000 fans of American football at London's Wembley Stadium, beating the Tampa Bay Buccaneers 35-7. The domination began right from the start as safety Brandon Merriweather intercepted 2 passes in the first quarter, returning one of them for a touchdown. Tom Brady threw for 308 yards and 3 touchdowns, including scoring passes to Wes Welker and Sam Aiken. For Aiken, it was his first career touchdown and the longest play from scrimmage for the Patriots this year. The Patriots returned home Monday, and they've already begun their preparation for their next game a week from Sunday at Gillette Stadium against the Miami Dolphins. We'll have more on that next week. And now for something completely different. From time to time, I like to introduce you to members of the media corps covering the Patriots. Today's guest is WBZ-TV sports reporter Alice Cook, who celebrated her 25th anniversary at Channel 4 on the day we recorded this interview. Part 1 begins right now, and Part 2 will appear in this space tomorrow. Alice, thanks for joining me here on the audio blog. As I said, you've not only been covering the Patriots since those days when we used to sit out in the courtyard at Bryant College years ago, but you've been covering all of the Boston sports teams and so much else. First of all, what's your favorite team?
Oh, boy, you had to start right out with that. First of all, it's been 25 years, and today, which is October 15th, is my 25th anniversary at WBZ. So
oh, my God, Alice, that's incredible. That's something else. Congratulations.
Thank you. I'm very proud of that run. That's a pretty good run. But favorite team, Mark, it really depends on what's going on at the time. I would have to say my favorite team in the last 9 years has been the Patriots because of all the success they've had. And football is great, too, because it's just once a week and there's so much build-up for every game. But the things that I've seen and covered since that first Super Bowl in New Orleans have just been amazing. So if I had to pick a team out of the four, it would be the Patriots.
Alice, a lot of people don't understand the chemistry and the hierarchy, I guess, in the locker room interview. And the way I wanted to try to describe it was, it would be unfair to you if I said it's the little people in front. But as you know, there's a semicircle forms around players. And a lot of times it's the television reporters in front and the cameramen are ringing in the next ring. And then it's the guys with the long arms like me who can reach my microphone or recorder over all that. But in a case like that, we have to rely on the people in the front to be able to talk to the players and get them talking. One thing I've always respected about you in all the years I've known you is that you do not ask the soundbite question. You engage these people in very good conversations, and it helps us. It helps the rest of us. Was there any particular way that you came upon that approach?
Well, you want to have some kind of conversation. First of all, if I'm in front, and one of the reasons, it took me a long time to push my way to the front, Mark, but it helps to be short, so none of the cameras complain because I'm under the camera lenses. But, when Brady comes up, say, hey, how you doing? You're at your locker or some kind of comment about, University of Michigan football. But it certainly helps just to, as he's getting settled in, to kind of just do something as the cameras are focusing and everyone's getting positioned, as we say. But I like to think that, I do my homework, and it's like, what can I ask? And let's face it, when we're in those situations, you're lucky to get 2 or 3 questions in. So it's like, okay, well, what can I ask that will engage this player today, or what might be a little different? But it's very easy just to go to the standard, well, what about this week's matchup, and quite frankly, with some players, you kind of have to do that anyway because they're harder to engage.
Alice, you talked about your own anniversary. This year is actually another kind of anniversary. It's not necessarily one that I like to talk about. It's the 20th season since one of my least favorite moments on this beat, which was the Lisa Olson harassment situation.
It's been 20 years?
Yes.
It's amazing.
It is. I can't even begin to imagine the pressures that were on women reporters at the beginning of the time when people started finally going into locker rooms and all that. But I'd like to think that times have changed a little bit. You would be uniquely qualified to tell me whether that's the case. Do you feel things are different now after all these years?
Oh, my gosh, night and day. Night and day. When I first started, it was just the beginning of equal access for female reporters. I was really on the cutting edge back in the mid-'80s. And I'll tell you, Mark, it was horrible. I look back on that, it's like, how did I ever stay in this business? And I remember the sick feeling in my stomach going in there. I remember the looks I would get. I remember, the comments I would get. Some were pretty brutal. I think a lot of women in the media today, some of the women that are younger, have maybe just entered into this profession, don't even have a clue of how bad it was back then. It was harassment, and I did feel discriminated against. And it wasn't just players or coaches, I felt it from management at times. I felt it from my colleagues. Not you, of course.
Thank you for that, Alice. Thank you very much. But I'm glad to hear that it's better for you now than it was then. But it's been a battle, hasn't it?
Yes, it has been a battle. What's different now is like I'm old enough to be the player's mother now, so they have to respect me. But I really, back then it really was, there was this kind of feeling like, what is she doing here? She's just in here to get her jollies. She's just in here to meet a player and, go out with a player. It was all these things you had to fight. And beyond just that whole aura around me and dealing with that, I had to be smarter than everyone. And really, there was no room to ask a stupid question. There was no room to say something that wasn't right, to get a fact wrong, because I knew everyone would jump on me. She doesn't know what she's talking about. Well, she's a female doing football coverage? Please. She never played the game. What does she know? So it was a tremendous amount of pressure, and fortunately I was surrounded by people at Channel 4 that were so supportive and really, fought for me and made sure that people knew that, certain things wouldn't be tolerated. And players have grown up seeing women on TV, and that's the difference too. They watch women on networks. ESPN and the networks had no problem putting women out there, and very knowledgeable people and good reporters. So they were raised with this. So it's a whole different attitude with people in the media, the players, the people that own the teams, the management, and it's night and day, as I said before.
In part 2 of our interview, Alice and I will chat about how her background as an Olympic athlete helped guide her career in sports journalism, and of course, what she sees for the Patriots for the remainder of this season.
We'll be right back with part 2 of this interview, right after these words from one of my imaginary sponsors. Welcome back to episode 60 of the Owner's Box After Dark. I'm your host, Mark Farinella, and I'm recording this on Sunday, April 13th, 2025, from the palatial yet still chilly confines of Fulton Pond Studios here in Mansfield, Massachusetts. I'm about to continue with my 2009 interview with former WBZ-TV sports reporter Alice Cook, which was recorded just a few weeks into my second season of recording what I called Mark Farinella's audio blog, and that appeared on the Sun Chronicle's website. By the middle of a season was probably about twice a week, although in training camp I did it daily, which was a lot of work. And I got to tell you, it was the only regular video presentation on that website back in those days, and no, I did not get paid anything extra for doing it. And I'll tell you, despite the many hours it took me to doing it, I probably should have been paid a lot more for it. But I was using, I'm amazed by how good they came out, to be honest, because I was using the old Windows Movie Maker program, which I would crash repeatedly because of all the information I was trying to squeeze into one of my little 45-minute blog shows originally, and then the shorter, about 30-minute or less daily reports from Patriots camp. So I just want to mention here too, the mood candle of the day, as is usually the case, is the Sicilian Lemon candle by Yankee Candle. Smells terrific, although this one's getting a little low in the jar there, so I might have to replace that. And of course, the friendly folks at Starbucks in Foxborough provided me with this. I paid for it. Going back to thinking about the old audio blog, which I really enjoyed doing those, and I could whip them out pretty quickly. They had to be about a half hour or less in length. And I didn't have the luxury of going into great depth with a lot of the people I talked to, and I did get some of the best people on the beat to join me. I mean, among those were the late Gil Santos, the former radio voice of the Patriots, who was definitely, an icon in Boston sports and a great guy, and he enjoyed doing it with me, and it's one of my favorites of all time. I had the NFL Network reporter Judy Batista. She was working for the New York Times in a while, and she was regularly assigned to the Patriots in those days, and she was excellent. And of course, my longtime friend Mike Reese, working for the Boston Globe back then. Now, of course, he's still on the beat, working for ESPN. He was one of my guests, and I had fun doing these, and they enjoyed joining me. In talking to Alice back in 2009, I really wish I could have spent more time on the topic of her history as an Olympic skater, although I think we got into it pretty well. I think she did a very good job of describing how she could translate all that discipline and all that effort, everything she learned from really having to drive herself to be one of the best in the world at what she was doing. And yes, her team, she and her partner did finish 12th, I think, in the Olympics, and they were, I think, second in the U.S. championships. And she was very good about telling me how she was able to remember a lot of that and bring that work ethic to her job at WBZ. And that's why she had it for so many years. And, even now, even while she's suffering from ALS, she has most of the control of her legs. She's had a little trouble in one of them lately, but, she's not going to break any records. She's going to do her best to get to the finish. And I'm pretty sure she will. She's focused and determined to do it. As I said before, that's no surprise to anyone that knows her. Here's the last part of that 2009 interview I did with Alice.
Alice, you mentioned that you didn't play the game, obviously football, but you competed in sport at a very high level. A lot of people today may not remember the fact that you were a competitive figure skater, a pair skater, a silver medalist in the U.S. Championships in 1976, I believe, and you skated in the 76 Olympics in Innsbruck. And actually, the wonder of the Internet, I found a photograph of you and your partner standing next to Randy Gardner and Ty Babylonia, so that may show up in this audio blog. But having competed in a high-pressure sport at a high level, is there something from that you were able to bring to your new role as a sports journalist?
Absolutely. I get asked that question a lot, and the first thing I think of is performing under pressure. And with figure skating, you fall on your butt, and that's the worst thing that can happen to you. In TV, you stumble over your words, you forget your next question. Especially on live TV, there's a lot of things that can happen, and you have to, like in figure skating, you fall down, you get up, and you keep going. But I think the performing under pressure really helped me. I think, too, understanding an athlete's mind and what it takes to get to a certain level. Figure skating is like as far away from football as you can get, but there are similarities that cross over every single sport. And I think that's helped me to kind of understand the athletic mind, so to speak. But the skating helped in so many ways, and it actually, it helped open doors for me, too. In the beginning, it didn't get me the job, but it got me my entry-level position at Channel 38, where I was making like $5,000 a year. But I do draw on that. And, as time has gone on, it's funny because as years go on, I become more and more proud of that Olympic thing. When you're 19 years old and you're in the opening ceremonies, it's like, okay, well, it is another competition. This is cool. And then when I was at college, wow, you're an Olympic athlete. But the Olympics has just grown so much in the last 20, 25 years, and now it's like, wow, I'm so proud of that. And we placed 12th. My partner and I were 12th at the Olympics, 9th at Worlds that followed that. That was good to crack the top 10, but we were there, and such a small percentage of people never get to do that. So I'm really proud of that whole experience.
And I can see how the commitment of time and the dedication, the frustrations and everything that comes with it. In athletics, that is universal, whether it's football, baseball, softball, or whatever. So I can see where, that's the kind of thing that probably helped, prepare you for what you were going to be seeing or doing on deadline down the road.
Yeah, I think it takes an A-type to do what we do. And you're right, preparation in skating, it was like I trained midnight to 4 in the morning when I was pair skating, and we were on the ice from midnight to 4 for our coaching in Delaware we trained in. And then back on the ice at 1 o'clock in the afternoon for an hour session, then a little bit to eat, then to the gym or to some kind of dance class. And I did that 6 days a week for 2 years. So when we talk about our weird TV and reporting schedules, it's like it can't get any worse than that. So that certainly prepared me. And yeah, it's discipline.
The last question I have for you, Alice, as we record this, the Patriots have yet to play Tampa Bay and London, so we're not quite at that bye week yet, and yet this will appear during the bye week on our site. Given what you've seen so far, and you have been here for most of the year, where do you think this team's headed?
Well, I'm an optimist, especially when it comes to a Tom Brady team. And my thoughts on it, it's been slow going. And this isn't really what a lot of people expected, especially with Brady coming back. But I really feel, you look at how Peyton Manning came back from his injury, Carson Palmer, other quarterbacks. It wasn't, I think people expected a lot in the beginning. And, we're surprised by the defense. That's all good. And when the offense catches up, which I think it will, it's going to be good. So if they go into the bye week 5-2, what's wrong with that? These Belichick teams are known for, turning it on down the stretch. And I wouldn't be surprised. I think they need the bye, but I wouldn't be surprised to see them back in the Super Bowl.
That's Alice Cook, folks, one of my favorite people on the beat, and certainly be sure to watch everything she does on WBZ Channel 4. Thanks again, Alice, for helping out.
Thank you, Mark. My pleasure.
I hope you enjoyed that as much as I enjoyed remembering doing it. I have one last recollection I'd like to share with you as Alice Cook wraps up her preparation for this year's Boston Marathon. Kind of ties into something. Sometime before this interview was recorded, you may recall an instance where, in 2003, Tom Brady threw an 80-yard touchdown pass to Troy Brown in Miami to win a game. And one of Alice's colleagues, who shall not be named here, but most of you who are my age or less will remember it, he was caught leaping in the air in celebration in a photo that appeared on the cover of the Patriots Football Weekly magazine that came out every week in those days. And later that season, though, that was a great moment. I mean, let's face it, a lot of people enjoyed watching that and remembering it, and a little derisively sometimes, but, it's not something I would have done, but I couldn't have gotten off the ground that much anyway. But later that season, the Patriots were in Denver, and I was there. Alice was there for WBZ, and as time was ticking away, and they let us down onto the field to watch the last few minutes of the game because they were thinking the Broncos were going to wrap it up and have an easy win. And that was how they let us get to the locker rooms earlier, was to bring us down to field level. So we were standing on the sidelines and had a very good view, in fact, of when Patriots long snapper Lonnie Paxton fired a punt snap off the uprights behind him. And that was for an intentional safety, and you could see the wheels in motion of how the Patriots were planning this whole thing. By getting the ball back, instead of being right up next to their own goal line, by being able to do the free kick, if they stopped Denver, they would be able to get the ball in much better field position, which they did, and that gave them time to have a chance to win the ball game. So, wouldn't you know it, Patriots do all that, and they start marching down towards the goal line. Now, they're going in the opposite direction of where Alice and I were standing, and we really couldn't move around down there from where their media relations people want us to be. But we had a good view of what was going on. And at one point, as the Patriots are getting closer and closer, Alice was standing next to me, and she turned to me and said, "Hey, Mark, if they score to win this game, should we do the leap?" And I knew what she was talking about. She was talking about that picture of her colleague that was caught on Patriots Football Weekly cover. And I started laughing hysterically because, it wasn't the kind of thing. We weren't trying to mock anybody, but it was just the kind of thing that, like we'd want to get caught doing that. But it was a thrilling comeback. And wouldn't you know it, Brady throws a fade pass to David Givens. He scores. Patriots win 30-26. And, we laughed again, but we restrained ourselves and did not participate in a obvious celebration of sorts. Thinking of that, I left a message on the Globe's reader comments under that story by Kevin Paul DuPont that I mentioned before. And it said that I intended to leap for joy when she crosses the Boston Marathon's finish line this year. Now, it's not under my name, but if she sees it, I have a feeling she's going to be able to figure it out, who's selling her that.
Everywhere you go, from Maine to Louisiana, you'll find Esso dealers like me who take pride in their service. There's more to it than just filling a gas tank. There are a lot of little extras, important ones like checking your oil, battery, tires, radiator, or perhaps helping to guide you on your way with an Esso roadmap, or offering you the chance to freshen up in a clean restroom. Yes, there's everything you need for happy motoring at the SO sign.
Okay. We're about ready to wrap up today's episode of The Owner's Box After Dark. I got to remember which buttons to push when I do this. I actually work on a different board now for whenever I do my high school games, and I got more equipment here than most small radio stations have. I have been, like I said, I've been on the sidelines with illness. You can probably hear it in my voice a little bit. But I will be returning to the North TV microphone this week to call the Mansfield at North Attleboro baseball game on Wednesday, and then the Bridgewater Raynham at King Philip baseball game on Thursday. And then on Monday, I will be doing a Bishop Feehan at King Philip lacrosse doubleheader. Weather forecasts right now are a little bit better than what we've had. We've had a miserable stretch here. Worcester had a 5-inch snowstorm the other day. We haven't had any snow, a little tiny bit here in Mansfield, but it's been in the 40s, hardly out of the 40s, mostly at 30s or below freezing at night. It's been awful. It's April. Well, it's April. I'm not blaming climate change for this. This is just what happens in April in New England. So anyway, check my website. It's theownersbox2020.com, and you'll see the details for my broadcast plans for the year. So it's going to be a light springtime. Don't really have a lot of games, but I'll probably be doing about 10 or 11 local games during the weeks to come. And my friend Alex will join me at the end of the week. Alex Salaki, of course, my broadcast partner for Mansfield basketball, King Philip basketball. He is vacationing in Florida. Lucky guy. And he will be back in time to, hopefully the weather will be better up here by the time those two games come around at the end of the season. I'll have more commentary in the weeks to come, including my thoughts on the Patriots Hall of Fame annual fan balloting, which just started and will go through May 1st. It's on the Patriots website, patriots.com. You can't miss it. The 3 candidates that were chosen by our committee for enshrinement were kicker Adam Vinatieri, offensive lineman Logan Mankins, and wide receiver Julian Edelman. And all of them, you vote for the ones you like. You can vote twice, I think. And so you can vote for Adam twice, as I did, or you can vote for some of the other guys. Julian Edelman will be popular, no question about it. And I'll talk about that a little bit, and I'll also talk about Robert Kraft's decision to finally, after 14 years or so of us begging him to do it, to add Bill Parcells to the Hall of Fame as a contributor. It couldn't happen to a better person, to a better coach, and to a person who contributed a lot more to the Patriots franchise than a lot of people want to give him credit for. And I've lined up a couple of guests following the NFL draft that can offer some current insight to what's going on. Obviously, I haven't covered the team since 2019, so it's always good to keep in touch with these people, and especially when I, just went up there and was able to share my aging wisdom with the Hall of Fame committee. And I hate to say it, but I'm one of the oldest guys there now. Many of my friends have retired or passed, unfortunately, and so this year we didn't have Jim Donaldson of the Providence Journal and Carlo Emilio of Springfield. They passed away regrettably this year. And old friend Glenn Farley retired from the committee last year, being grampy to his grandson, loves to watch youth hockey. And this year, Ron Hobson, formerly of the Patriot Ledger, decided that it was time for him to retire and just enjoy life. So it's hard to say goodbye to these guys. It is. It's been a big part of my life all these years, and I hope to continue with this committee for as long as they can put up with me. Anyway, among the people I'll be talking to will be Boston Globe beat writer Christopher Price. He was a guest on the Owner's Box, the original gangsta of all this podcasting, my audio podcast. Back in 2020, I believe, maybe even a little bit earlier. I'll talk to him now about how, now that he has the full-time beat job, how that has changed since even I left. And all the differences, the changes brought by COVID, by having had two new coaches, going from Bill Belichick to Gerard Mayo to now Mike Vrabel. And also I'll talk to him about how his very well-received book, Bleeding Green, his history of the Hartford Whalers, is now going to be available in paperback, and that's a great moment for him too. So we'll talk to him, and a guy who I talked to way back when about being on this podcast, and then all sorts of things got in the way, and then I lost my software for the program, and I couldn't do anything with this. Bob Socci, the voice of the Patriots, the current radio voice of the Patriots, is one of the best prepared announcers I've ever had the pleasure to know, and now I'm going to get him on the podcast finally. And, maybe he'll be able to give me some tips about how to do this job, because even though I'm not in my 20s and I would love to have had more time doing the announcing part, I've learned along the way that, yes, indeed, you can teach old dogs new tricks. And Bob is very well suited to be able to give me some of those tips. And he can also tell me how to work with an announcer that won't shut up, like Scott Solak. And don't get me wrong, I love Zoe. I think the world of him. And his son right now is a backup quarterback for the King Philip Warriors and may have a chance to step into that role in the future. And funny moment, and maybe I should dig it up on one of the tapes to see if I have it. During one of my telecasts this year, I'm starting my introduction to a game, and I'm talking about how I'm setting everything up, and the window of our press box has to be open because the windows are always fogged over. And so as I'm talking, all of a sudden, Zolak just comes running right up the open window and goes, "Hey, Mark, how you doing?" Like that. It's like, I'm I'm on the air, Scott. Excuse me. Something like that just brings out the cough in me. So anyway, I'm looking forward to doing those two interviews coming up, and that should be fun. Now remember, these video podcasts can be easily found on YouTube. And the audio version can be found on most of the popular podcasting platforms, including Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Amazon, and others too. Just try searching for The Owner's Box with Mark Farinella, and when you find me, don't forget to like and subscribe. And I'm always looking for comments, so if you have any reason at all to get in touch with me, you can do it by email at theownersbox2020@gmail.com, and you can do it by snail mail, good old traditional letters, at the Owner's Box, Post Office Box 272, Mansfield, Massachusetts, 02048. All right, I want to thank everybody for Duck and Cover Productions for getting back here into the old studio, cranking one of these things out. We will see you again soon with another one. Just want to wish you all happy, healthy, and less stressful times. Don't look at your 401ks, and join me again soon. Thanks again for joining me. Good night.